Janetta, as I understand it, you interviewed Shireen Mutala of the University of Witwatersrand Education Policy Unit, and they're embarking on a very interesting project to do with change, and specifically the new curriculum, mathematics and physical sciences.
Yes, in fact it's called Implementing Curriculum Change. They will be addressing mathematics and science teachers in the schools, and this should also, they're trying to investigate how they can address issues of poverty.
Change practice?
Yes.
Okay.
Change practice, issues of poverty and gender equity.
Okay, so poverty and gender equity set the context within which change takes place. And specifically, we're looking at these subjects within the new curriculum.
That's right. And it will be done with the action research methodology. Yes.
Okay. Well, let's hear what she has to say, because what you see is happening now is we're focusing in on the practice and principles of action research.
Right.
Should be interesting.
Shireen, thank you very much for your time. I know how busy you are, and we do appreciate it a great deal. And the teachers out there also do appreciate your input a great deal. My first question is, as EPU, what are some of the projects that you've carried around that involves teachers or education, for instance?
You know, the EPU is a research entity within the School of Education. We've been here since 1987.
Right.
And we were set up very much to provide policy support to the democratic movement in those days.
Yes.
Before in the apartheid time.
Right.
Our research program has shifted.
Right.
In terms of the changing times.
Yes.
And we have a number of research programs on education access.
Right.
On education rights.
Yes.
On governance and equity.
Yes.
All of which specifically try to address the issue of teachers' practice, teachers' needs, teachers' understanding of the curriculum,
yes.
Teachers' rights.
Okay.
So there's a big research program that's going on at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. Now, coming to the project, this particular one, Implementing Curriculum Change, what is it all about?
Okay, the Implementing Curriculum Change project is an extremely interesting and exciting project,
yes.
Which the WITS EPU has undertaken with a number of other universities, both across Africa and in England.
Yes.
I think the important thing about this project is that in general there's a crisis around education quality,
yes.
particularly for people who are poor,
right.
and particularly in developing countries.
Yes.
So the aim of this project is very much within the Millennium Development Goals,
yes.
The EFA program,
right.
And it's a long-term research program which has a number of aspects to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do the teachers come in?
Okay, the whole aim of the Implementing Curriculum Change project,
yes.
and the one we are specifically working on,
yes.
is aimed very much at looking at curriculum change for maths and science teachers.
Right.
So basically the approach of the project is one which looks at teachers' practice.
Okay. So it will take place within the classroom.
The project, which will run over 5 years,
yes.
is a collaborative action research project.
Right.
It brings together 5 schools in Gauteng.
Yes.
And in those five schools and in those 5 years,
yes.
one will work with 10 teachers.
Wow.
Over that period.
Okay.
And the whole aim is looking at their practice,
yes.
and help them to become much more effective in the classroom.
Okay. That is extremely... So the schools have already been determined in Gauteng, 5 of them, and from each school there will be a mathematics and a science teacher, and therefore making it a total of 10.
Right.
Right. What would be the research questions do you have? What do they entail?
Okay, the research questions revolve very much around maths and science teaching,
yes.
around looking at particular problems that teachers have in teaching maths and science.
Right.
It also tries to relate the teaching of maths and science to the broader goals of poverty alleviation, yes. and gender
yes.
equity.
Okay.
So in the first instance, it's really for teachers to be able to improve their research practice.
Yes.
And then broadly, it relates to more societal questions around
yes.
poverty alleviation,
right.
and gender equity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there has been a lot of research all over the world and even in South Africa where researches have been conducted and at the end of the day, really nothing much comes of it.
I think there are different aspects which distinguishes this from other projects that are being undertaken.
Right.
I think the first and most important thing is that it's not a one-off project. It's a
Right.
project that will carry on for
For
5
quite some
years,
time, yes.
which means that there's a sustained effort
Right.
to work through
Yes.
the research questions.
Okay.
I think the second big issue is that the research approach is collaborative,
Yes.
which means that it's aimed at an intervention
Involving the
teachers.
Yes.
I think the third thing is that at different stages of the project,
Yes.
the results of the research will be published in the newspapers,
Yes.
will be shared with district officials,
Yes.
will be shared with policymakers.
Yes.
So it's very much an iterative process where it's a process of sharing
That's true.
and getting at the best possible product at the end. It will also speak to the academic community, which
Yes.
means we will do journal articles, we'll present the findings in conferences,
Yes.
and we will share it with our colleagues in Africa because throughout the project there are opportunities to go across Africa and talk through
Yes.
the research findings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it possible for us to arrange to meet you again to tell us the results in 5 years' time, let's say?
Well, hopefully you'll be able to talk to us in a year's time
In a year's time.
to see
yes.
where we've got to.
Yes.
And it might be interesting to talk to the teachers as well to see
Yes,
how valuable
yes.
they found this process.
Yes.
So certainly we would welcome an opportunity to share
Your
share the
findings so
findings,
far,
and we
yes.
hope that the teachers who you are trying to speak to
Yes.
on the teaching channel will find this process important and interesting.
Yes, yes, indeed. And thank you very much for your time again.
Thank you.
Lunetta, that's all well and good. Sounds fascinating, and I'm really going to be looking forward to seeing what unfolds and what
Yes.
sort of results we come out. I'm particularly glad that we don't have to wait to the end of the project before
Yes.
we see the results.
We can find out after 6
Which
months
of
also.
course would be a bit of a contradiction in an action research
Yeah.
model, because the idea is that you're continually looking at what you're
Yes, and
doing.
going in a cyclic form, yeah.
But it still worries me a little that here you have a big project, well funded, plenty of resources, lots of people to do the work right up.
Yeah.
When we talk about action research as changing classroom practice, that means it must be accessible to the teacher.
Yes.
What's the answer?
I always have answers for you, Peter.